I'm Sarah Joseph, and I empower people with tools that strengthen relationships. Tonight, we're talking about parenting stress and self care. It is our last session in our 6 week series with school district number 46 on parenting through difficult times. So, I thank you for joining us for the series, and let's jump into tonight's topic. Parenting stress. What is it? Well, it's something we all experience, and it's a normal part of parenting. There's two different perspectives on parenting stress. One is that from two different perspectives on how parenting stress is caused or what causes it. One perspective says that it is caused from the relationship. So, relationship focused theories say that parenting stress arises from um, the different relationships we have. So, the relationship we have with ourselves, with our child, with maybe our partner, the relationship of the family itself, how we all kind of interact with each other. The other perspective says that the cause of parenting stress is more hassles focused. So, this theory places emphasis on the different stressors that may arise in our typical day or week when we live in a household full of kids or with a child or an adolescent. I think that both these theories are right, right? I think that they really just work together to give us kind of um, a broader look or a broader range of what could be going on for us as parents. Stress arises from not only our relationship with ourselves and our own triggers, our relationship with our child and our the other people who share the household with us, but also from the everyday hassles and stressors and just the stuff that needs to get done, the to-do lists that happen in our house. And I would add a third category saying that parenting stress is affected by outside stressors, right? When we think about COVID, when we think about, you know, finances, those things affect us as parents as well and have a trickle down effect, right? Because when we're stressed about COVID, it's not always about trying to keep myself safe, but it's about trying to keep our kids safe. What's the best decision for them? Should I send them to school? Should I keep them at home? Am I am I doing more harm by keeping them home or sending them to school? Right? All of those questions and decisions that we have to make, I think, cause a lot of parenting stress as well. So when we move into this stress response, our brain often works in a way that triggers us to act fast without thinking. And from a survival point of view, this is very helpful. So, say you're walking down the street and you see something that looks like a snake, your body is going to move into this fast response, the fast route response. And what that means is that you're going to act without thinking. You're going to stop walking, you're going to stop in your tracks, and then it will take a few minutes or a few seconds sometimes, right, for your cognitive brain to catch up with you and evaluate the situation and see that what you thought was a snake was really just a stick, right? So from a survival point of view, this is really helpful, right? If you don't want to walk up on a rattlesnake and get bitten. Um, However, from a parenting perspective, this isn't very helpful because we act without thinking when we're not in danger, right? When we're just under stress, when we're feeling triggered by pressures put on us from our relationship or from the hassles, and we end up reacting. And reactive parenting can be detrimental to our children. It can be detrimental to our relationships as well, and to our confidence as a parent that we can handle what's going on. So, one of the, oh, I just meant to say that we can work consciously to short circuit this automatic reaction so that we can respond more thoughtfully. And one of the ways that we can do this is we can help intervene with our thought process. So, our thoughts and emotions and behaviors are all interlinked, right? How we think affects how we feel and how we act, and how we feel affects how we think and what we do, and our behavior affects how we think and feel. So, they're all interrelated. However, often what happens is we walk into a situation and then we feel something, we feel triggered. We might feel annoyed or frustrated, and then we add thoughts to that feeling. And as we start adding these thoughts, what we're doing is we're intensifying our emotions with those thoughts, and that often leads us into feeling um, like we're moving into our fight or flight response. And that often leads us into behavior that is more of a reactive type of behavior than a well thought out response. So I just want to walk you through a scenario that might sound familiar to you. Um, and you can maybe relate and just understand this a little bit more deeply. So let's think about walking into the house at the end of the day. You just got home from work and the house is a disaster, right? There's stuff everywhere. And maybe before you left that day, you asked your kids to clean up something. And you left your partner or the child care provider with the instructions that the kids had to clean up the living room, or they had to clean up the rooms, right? Pick up after themselves, basically. And you get home from work and nothing has been done. Actually, it seems messier than when you left this morning. And so you walk in and nobody pays any attention to you. And they're just still doing whatever they're doing, playing video games or watching TV or playing with some toys. And you automatically just feel overwhelmed and annoyed that nothing's been done, and kind of rejected because nobody's saying, hey, how's it going? And so with that feeling, you start adding these thoughts. You start thinking, God, everybody's so lazy. I can't believe they haven't done anything I asked them to do. And guess who's going to end up having to do it? It's me. I'm going to have to clean up all this mess. Right? And as you're adding those thoughts, your emotions of feeling annoyed and frustrated and overwhelmed start to increase, right? They start to intensify. And so what ends up happening is you end up yelling at everybody to stop what they're doing and start cleaning up like you told them to do before you left for work this morning, right? So you can see how that all of that can happen quite quickly, right? It doesn't take as much time as it took me to explain it. And sometimes those thoughts happen quite subtly in our brain. We don't even pick up on the fact that we're saying these things to ourselves or we're thinking these things. However, if we can start paying closer attention to what we're thinking and feeling, then we are able to interrupt this cascade and help ourselves respond more thoughtfully. So as you walk through that door, instead of, you still might feel overwhelmed and frustrated. However, instead of thinking about, they're so lazy and I'm going to have to do all this stuff, what you could do at that moment is take a breath and label your feeling for yourself. So, oh gosh, I feel really overwhelmed and frustrated right now, right? And then say some nice things to yourself. Like, wow, this is hard to walk into a house that's really messy, right? And it looks like they're having a lot of fun. And gosh, I should, it's really nice to hear them all laughing together. And it's just stuff. It will get cleaned up. We can work on it together. Maybe tonight or the weekend. It'll be okay. Right? When you say things like that to yourself, you can see how your emotions are going to start feeling a bit calmer, right? And then when you go to act, you're going to be able to do it from a place of, hey, I'm quite disappointed that the cleanup didn't happen before I got home from work like I hoped it would. Can we get to do it right now? Right? You can come at your family, your kids in a different way. Um, that, that isn't so reactive and doesn't have us feeling bad after the fact because we reacted instead of responding. So as I said, the self-talk is really important. And it's helpful if you can pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're saying to yourself, because you can really boost yourself up or bring yourself down. Or, as I said, you can really intensify your feelings and talk yourself into that fight or flight state, or you can really help yourself calm down, right? So, our self talk really does make a huge difference. And if we're able to understand or catch some of the patterns, then that of the things that we say to ourselves, then we'll be able to change the way that we respond. Now, I've noticed for myself that some of the things that I say are real cues to me that I need to take a break and calm down. So for instance, I work from home a lot, and if I am trying to get some work done and the kids are being loud or interrupting me, then I can start feeling quite flustered and frustrated. And when I move into that state, sometimes the things I say to myself are things like, I'm going to lose it. Right. And when I say I'm going to lose it, I mean it. I figured out that that's a good clue for me that I need to take a break. I need to take some deep breaths and calm myself down, because if I don't take a break right then and there, I will lose it. So when you are more aware of what you're saying to yourself, you can then figure out those patterns and those clues for yourself that help you recognize when you're moving into that fight or flight state, when you're moving into a meltdown of your own or overreaction of your own. And this takes some practice. So when we're learning this, I want you to be gentle with yourself, because what happens is we kind of expect us, tonight I'll teach you this, and then tomorrow you expect that you're going to be able to do it right away. The truth is that it takes time for us to figure out how this works in our brains and how the patterns unfold. So be gentle with yourself as you're figuring this out. The first step is really creating awareness. And when we're creating awareness, we often are doing the thing and recognizing it afterwards. So, for instance, you may yell at your children, you might get flustered, work yourself up, yell at your children, and then after the fact say, oh, darn, I did it again, right? That's creating awareness. It's the first step. That just, darn, I did it again is the step in changing, is in making change. It's just creating awareness, okay? So you recognize that you did it again. That is a movement forward. The second step then is to start recognizing it when you're in it. And so again, you'll find yourself feeling flustered, adding on thoughts, moving into yelling possibly, and then you'll catch yourself in the middle of it and go, oh, I'm doing it again. And you'll be able to pull yourself back sometimes, and sometimes you won't, but you'll recognizing it sooner, right? The third step will then be to start recognizing it when it's happening. So at the very beginning, when you're feeling flustered, you might start recognizing that you have some of this negative self-talk or this negative thought patterns, and then you'll be able to stop it there and change it, okay? You can't skip to step 3 without doing step 1 and 2. It doesn't work that way. So this isn't going to happen overnight, but take the practice and start practicing it and work towards it, right? Remember that the way that our brains work is they're developed, we develop pathways. When we feel something and act in a certain way, we develop a pathway. And that pathway gets deeper and deeper every time we do that same thing. So if you have been reacting in the one way for a while, it's going to take some time to create a new pathway, and for that new pathway to be your choice, right? The pathway of choice. The other one will take a while for us to want to move away from, because it's very easy for our brain to go down the same pathways as we've been going down before. Much harder to choose a new pathway. I also just want to remind you that it is normal to have a smaller window of tolerance during stressful times. And living through a global pandemic is a stressful time. Um, Other stressful times might be times when you move or there's a transition. You might be changing jobs, or your child is going to a new school. Um, all of those, all stressful times when you're, separating from a spouse or a partner, all of those are big stresses, right? And if that's happening in your life, then it's normal for you to have a smaller window of tolerance. And remember, the window of tolerance just means your ability to cope with stress. So if your window is smaller, then you're not able to deal with as much stress or carry as much of a load as you once were. And it's important that if you want to keep your window of tolerance open, if you want to have more ability to handle stress and stay calm and feel like you're managing well, then what you need to do is take care of yourself and start to reduce your stress, right? Let go of some of the things that you're holding on to. Now, our our young kids are quite good at this part, the letting go of the things that they're carrying. Often young children are quite good at letting go of a feeling and moving on to the next thing, and truly letting go of those feelings, right? Where us adults aren't so good at it. Something bad happens early in the morning, and we'll carry that bad feeling for the rest of the day. And often, we've added on to other things. So it's really, not that easy for us adults to let go of, you know, uh, getting getting off to the wrong foot in the morning. So I want you to remember the wisdom of the flight attendant. Put your own oxygen mask on first before you put your child's on. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how can you possibly take care of anyone else? Right? And taking care of ourselves is really one of the most powerful ways we can take care of others. So, what does taking care of you look like? Self care isn't selfish. And I really, really want to redefine what self care is. Self care is not something we do once a week or once a month when we find the time or we find the money. It's not about, that spa day with the girlfriends or going out for drinks with your friends, or going golfing once a month with your crew, right? It's really about finding small things every day that we can do throughout our day that helps us feel like we're letting go of some of the stress we've been carrying and refilling our bucket. Um, we really need to fuel ourselves constantly because we're constantly giving, right? We're constantly giving. So, this really doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time or costs any money at all. You just have to be consciously aware of it making you feel good. So, for instance, drinking my coffee hot in the morning makes me feel good. So, I drink it when it's hot. And I started buying myself I bought myself a tumbler, so a coffee mug with a lid to keep it hot, right? So that even if I get busy with the kids, distracted by trying to get them ready for school or whatever, my coffee stays hot. Because for me, that's really nourishing, right? It makes me feel good. So self-care can be just about anything, right? It can be putting yourself first, it can be asking for help, it can be spending time alone or just taking a break. It can be saying no or staying home or setting some boundaries. It can be taking a long bath or a hot shower. It can be going for a walk with your dog, right? It can be reading the newspaper or reading a good book. It could be watching Netflix, right? It's different for everybody. Some people need exercise, some people, need good food, some people need sleep. Whatever fuels you, whatever feels good for you is self-care. Okay? So, I want you to think about self-care like this. A bucket. You have a bucket, and the goal is to fill your bucket so that you can give to others from the overflow of your bucket. Okay, the holes in the bottom of that bucket there, you are giving constantly. Okay, your bucket is always losing water, and you need to fill it constantly, because if you don't, you will die. Plain and simple. Okay, so we need you to fill your bucket. And so it's really helpful to take a moment and just make a list of all the things that you know that helps you fill your bucket, that you know that makes you feel good, right? What are the self-care practices that you can do multiple times a day that help you keep your bucket full? It's sometimes it's also helpful to make a list of the things that drain your bucket, and some of those things are really unnecessary, right? Sometimes we overschedule ourselves or overschedule our kids. Sometimes we say yes to too many things, um, and they stress us out and really drain us. And so sometimes self-care looks like plug in one of these holes so you're not draining yourself as much as you were, right? And I think that's one thing that maybe COVID has really been good for, was teaching us how to slow down and maybe teaching us what things are necessary and what things we can live without, right? So self-compassion is another form of self-care for me. I think it's really helpful, and it really helps us get through those moments where we're feeling like we're struggling. So self-care or self-compassion is just a few simple steps, right? The first one is really recognizing when you are feeling uncomfortable. So I like to say feeling uncomfortable. Kirsten Neff says suffering. But really, self-compassion is just noticing that I'm upset about something, noticing that I'm feeling uncomfortable with an emotion right now, and being able to respond to that in a loving, kind way. So if I'm feeling sad, right, or if I'm feeling angry, I can say to myself, oh, this is hard. I'm feeling really angry right now. And when I recognize what I'm feeling, it helps calm me down a bit. And then I can recognize also that feeling angry or feeling sad or frustrated is part of the human experience. I am not the only one who has felt like this. Um, and that also helps calm me down a little bit and helps me feel connected to other people, right? That moment of connection. The third step is to really just let yourself, again, say nice things to yourself. So often we are our worst critics, and we are so judgmental about ourselves and our reactions and the way that we do things. Um, and it's really important that we are able to support ourselves in these moments, that we're not judging ourselves harshly, but we're being kind to ourselves. And so Kirsten Neff, she talks a lot about self-compassion in her book and on her website and videos. And I really like the way that she explains this step of self-kindness, as if you're talking to your best friend, right? And I would even say, talk to yourself like you were talking to your child, right? Because when our child is really hurting, we don't say, "Oh yeah, you deserve to suffer." Right? No, we wouldn't say something like that. We would be really kind to them and try to boost them up, right? And let them know that tomorrow is a new day. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. So, saying things for ourselves that, help support us in that moment, help us feel like our best friend is saying kind things to us, is going to help us through those moments and is really going to help us bounce back from those feelings so that we can show up as our best selves. Okay, mindfulness can also help us because mindfulness just helps us create that conscious awareness of what our current thoughts, feelings, and surroundings are. And it helps us accept these things with openness and curiosity without judging. So mindfulness also teaches us about breathing and finding a calm place or taking a pause when we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed or when we're feeling triggered. So you can practice mindfulness in so many different ways. And there's so many apps available now that help teach you mindfulness skills, yoga, right? All of those, meditation, all of those lovely ways of learning how to just be a little bit more conscious, have a little more conscious awareness of what's happening inside of us so that we can find our inner calm. So, I wanted to just end tonight's session with a little bit of where you can find me. So I am findable on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and my website is sarahjoseph.ca. I have really enjoyed spending the last 6 weeks chatting with all of you. And I hope that you have found this series helpful. Please do connect with me on social media. I'd love to stay in contact. So find me, connect in, and let's keep working on our parenting together. Okay. I'm going to turn off the recording now so that we can have a discussion for those who are here live. For those of you who are catching the recording, thank you again for joining us, and please make sure you leave a comment. Okay, take care.